right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Meester Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Adam Kelbie,
Hello, guys.
the one and only, and a very, very special guest today. Somebody I'm a big fan of secretly. The oh so beautiful, amazing, smart, caring. Go on. Board certified doctor Tania Elliott, if I pronounce it correctly with my Dutch accent.
Dr. Tania Elliott.
Yes, very well.
Got it.
And,
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome. Over there in Connecticut.
That's right. Yep.
Beautiful.
Where in Connecticut for people listening in the US? Like, what's the...
So Westport, and it's a beautiful autumn day. I'm staring at all the changing leaves. And it's about 45 minutes outside New York City for people who aren't familiar.
Amazing. I just wanted to correct one thing. I believe it was you have, I think as of now, you say you have 100 million views across social media platforms. But I believe right now it's over 200 million. I've been watching you and I'm seeing the numbers and you are just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Just to get a little backstory about you, where did you start? How did you get into all this? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've always been really passionate about making sure my patients were empowered with accurate health information that they could understand. And I couldn't understand when I was in medical school. I sat there and I'm like, we're learning this whole new vocabulary of words and medical jargon. And then we go and we talk to patients and we confuse them. There has to be a common, we need to just be able to talk to people. It's got to be relatable. They have to understand, what are the things that they're doing in their everyday life that could be impacting their health? It can't just all be you have hypertension and hypercholesterolemia and blah, blah, all this stuff. And I just felt like it was creating such a rift between the doctor and the patient. So I'm like, I got to make healthcare simple and understandable for people. And that's sort of been my mission ever since I became a doctor many, many years ago. I don't want to date myself. And then the other thing I realized once I went into practice, so I went into private practice on Park Avenue in New York City. I'm an allergist and an internal medicine doctor by training. I do have a sub-focus on women's health. And I was like, wow, this is so inefficient. So as an allergist, right, someone would come to my office and they tell me all about the allergic reaction that they had 2 months ago, but it took 2 months to get in to see me, to get an appointment. And I was like, well, great. And so they were trying to remember what the reaction was, what their rash looked like. And then I found if they had a picture of something on their phone documenting it, I was able to make a diagnosis. If they didn't have that, I wasn't able to make a diagnosis. So I was like, there's got to be a better way for people to access me, number one. And number two, we've got to start leveraging technology to interact with our patients more. So this was back in 2013, right? The other thing was I was constantly asking a patient what their triggers could be in their home. So I would say hey, do you have curtains or drapes or carpeting, any pets in the home? And I was just like, gosh, I wish I could just see into somebody's house. And then I could point out all the things that are probably triggering their allergies, their asthma, and their skin rashes. So again, it was so inefficient to have them physically come into my office. So that's when I started to think maybe I should be doing telehealth visits with patients and doing video walkthroughs of their home. Maybe they can upload photos or videos to me so we could get pictures, so I could get real-time information. And so that sort of started me in the world of startups. And then eventually I became chief medical officer of a number of different businesses. And I just became a healthcare innovator. So I'm this person that likes to challenge the status quo. And I'll get to how I got to social media, which was about 10 or so months ago. I was enough. Yes, I could see my patients and I can even work in the startup world or try to work in the payer space and all this sort of stuff. But I need to reach more people because they need to hear what I have to say. I'm going to give them simple tips to help their lives be easier. So I'm like, that's it. I'm going on social media, and 10 days later, literally I had a post that was viral that was 4 things I'd never do as a board certified doctor, where I talked about the things that I don't do personally and then got a little bit into the science behind it. And it was, it went viral. And from there, I realized that there really was this opportunity to meet people where they are, and everyone's on their phones with accurate information in a relatable and a personable way with stuff that everyday people want to learn about. So fast forward, maybe it's 200 million views later. Here I am today.
Wow.
And this is the concept telemedicine, right?
I was doing telemedicine before it was cool. Okay, guys,
Telemedicine,
I'm
which
like
is
11 years into telemedicine.
no,
Okay, I was
and this is what I find very interesting. I'm someone who's into AI and stuff like that. I have a company that does AI, and I'm sure now I would think with what's happening with the voice recognitions, the AI sort of the vision that things like OpenAI can do. This must be helping what you're doing massively as well, just for scale, as well as, I mean, it's obviously amazing it would be to chat to you every day, but that's not going to happen, is it?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I actually have like a completely new vision for care delivery. And I actually think about doctors' offices the way that I think about Blockbuster Video. I don't know if you know, in the US, Blockbuster Video was a place you would go to like
Yeah.
rent Nintendo video games and movies and stuff, and then you bring it home and you put them in the machine. And like, it's irrelevant now, right? We're just streaming from our phones. Yeah. And so in my mind, like, you're going to physically go into the doctor's office and have this like snapshot in time conversation with them and check one blood pressure, and then they're going to make a diagnosis. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We have devices that track all this real world data and information. We can log our symptoms. We can access a doctor through text, through video, right? And then you overlay AI piece to that. And like the doctor probably will only need to get involved when there's an exception, right? When AI can't figure it out. And then the doctor has to step in and say like, hey, I actually think like given XYZ, this is probably what's going on. And I like to call this the spectrum of digital engagement. And I think the first part of that funnel is social media and medical education. By social media, I mean my use of social media, and what I encourage other doctors to do is educate, right? It's awareness and education, right? And then from there, if there's a medical issue or a problem, we kind of have this AI overlay, which provides people with some information and tidbits that may be relevant to them based off of maybe biometric data and stuff that we're getting. And then eventually, right, you get to the telemedicine visit. And then really only for the exception do you actually have to go into the office. And that's like literally if you have a broken bone that needs to be set, if you need an imaging test done, if you need a surgery. So like, see you later, doctor's offices. That's at least my vision for the future.
I suppose as well, it could lead to, I'm not going to say less doctors, because you could do a lot of the AI, could do a lot of the analysing, but almost better doctor care, because I can't imagine what it's like to be something like a GP, right? A GP, a general practitioner, when you're sitting there every day, you've got some hypochondriacs coming in. You've also got people with absolutely, with relevant reasons to come in. But then you're also dealing with people that you're probably pulling your hair out all the time. It must be not a lonely existence because you're seeing a lot of people, but it must be a hard existence to keep on top of that and keep, I don't know how to phrase it, keep sort of enthusiastic for it when all day you've got people just draining that kind of energy out of you.
And the truth is we say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, I'm just going to start recording myself saying it and saying it in an engaging way. And like, there we go. I've scaled. And I think a lot of people in the healthcare field are hesitant. They're like, oh, artificial intelligence is going to take over our jobs or this and that. And I have two things to say about that. Number one, we have a healthcare clinician shortage in this country. There's a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of doctors. Like, this current state is not sustainable. We need tools in place to be able to scale. Number two, it's not artificial intelligence that's going to take over our job. It's augmented intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. It is giving us more data sets, right? More information for people that like, so I see you in my office. I will have data that says, hey, I've seen thousands of people like you based off of this data set that AI is providing me with. So now I can make a much better informed, personalized decision for you.
And also with health as well, I would say with health, there's going to be an element of, it's an emotional thing, your health, right? You're not going to be wanting to talk at the end of the day to a robot, are you? So when that final, the final chat happens, I don't think you're going to be, that's something that any doctor should worry about. I think, Jesse, if you were going to the doctors and you were speaking to a robot, it's worrying.
It's
right?
It's an interesting conversation because when I moved to Spain from I was actually living in the US before, and I was asked to get a doctor, and they asked me here in Spain, do I want a woman or a man? And I think that for some people they might relate more to a man because they are a man or for other reasons, and some are more like a woman. And I think that has a lot to do. My background is actually in psychology, graduated everything, got into real estate, different story. But I just wanted to like emphasize what you say here is that it's so important to have that personal connection. And when I watch your videos, Tania, I really am intrigued by not just the value you're providing, but also your personality and the way you're bringing it. And it's easy to say, yeah, more doctors should be doing content, but you also need to have the personality to do it. Most doctors don't have that, to be fair, and you don't want to even see them on social media. But the way you're bringing it, and with so much elegance, is very refreshing. So I also, as I've been speaking to my followers a little bit about you being on the podcast, and they've been wondering like how does a day of Tania look like? Because you now seem to be very full-time busy with social. How does that look like?
Yeah. So what I'd like to do with my content in general is I like to batch it out. So I'll do like 2 days of filming. And I do have a bit of an advantage just because I've been doing some broadcast and media stuff really ever since medical school. And I'll tell you guys why. So this is my med school story. I applied to medical school. I applied to 10 medical schools when I was in college, and I got rejected from 9. And I was like, oh, crap, I'm not going to get into med school now. Like, what am I going to do? What could my alternative career be? And I knew I was a science nerd, but what I enjoyed doing were the presentations where there were a bunch of non-science people in the room. And then I was like distilling down the topics in a way that they could understand. And I would actually get them excited about like random experiments with E. coli and things like that. So I thought maybe I should do like medical journalism or something like that, or health journalism. And I got like really excited about that. And then it turns out I got an interview at the one medical school, and then I got accepted to that medical school. That was Jefferson in Philadelphia, great school. And then I was like, oh crap, now I got to go to med school. Meanwhile, I was like really vibing with this whole medical journalism sort of thing. So when I was a first year medical student, I emailed all of the local news stations and I was like, hey, can I like come hang out at the news studio and like work for free? And no studio wrote back to me except for one. It was ABC. And they're like, yeah, if you have like free time or an elective or something like that. And I was like, oh man, I'm not going to have elective for like until my 4th year. So I saved the email and I wrote them back my 4th year. And I said, hey, remember me from like 3.5 years ago? Like, can I come to your studio? And they said, yes. And it was ABC Action News. And it was back when there was, there was like a tsunami in Japan, and there were all these like lots of cool health topics. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I created an elective at my medical school and actually got to spend a month at the news studio. And then when I did my residency in New York City at Mount Sinai, I reached out to ABC World News and I got to do another elective there. And so I was kind of like hanging around and, the news studios and stuff. And then they let me actually go behind the anchor desk and pretend like I was an anchor reporting on these stories and things. So then I started to do a little bit of broadcast stuff, and I've been doing that for a number of years. And I think it's that ability to sort of know what is a good hook and a pitch that has helped me. And then I've sort of honed some of those broadcast performance skills. I even took an acting class at one point when I was right after I graduated med school, and it was really fun. And I got to be in one.
You in a new series of ER or something like that. I mean, that's next.
Definitely, though.
It
Definitely.
could be.
But now you guys know my whole story. Also, the fact that I almost didn't get into medical school. So people, don't give up on your dreams. I did it. I mean,
at the same time, it sounds like you had one interview. Or from what I ascertained from that story, you got one interview, but you got it, right? So that was your presentation skills coming in. So more fool those other 9 that didn't interview you in the first place.
Yep, it's their loss now. I love getting up super early in the morning. So I'm up at like 5 before anybody else is up. And I literally like pop up and I'm like, what am I going to do today? Like, I really like it. And I like to watch the sunrise. And then after like an hour or two, I make my cup of matcha tea. I've like switched off with coffee. It doesn't do it for me, but I make my matcha tea, put a little bit of vanilla collagen powder in that. That's been the latest. So
Take
if you
notes,
see my
guys.
glow, that's why.
Actually, I mean, talking what you're talking about here, this man, you've actually affected, because my girlfriend was very excited that I was going to be speaking to you. So now I'm hearing some of your morning routines, and I'm getting some of my morning routines here now, because I used to have coffee, and now it's not coffee anymore. It's matcha. It's
What?
Yeah, I know.
So but here's the thing. This matcha, no. And then I put in like a vanilla protein shake, and
Lovely.
it's like 170 calories and 26 grams of protein. So I have like the caffeine, and then I have the matcha that's healthy for you, and then I put in the collagen, and it's like my little morning thing. I love it.
But doctor, I'm a bit confused because I'm like starting my day off with 1 liter of filter coffee. I know filter, no, but
1
filter,
liter?
yeah, for 1 liter.
Wow.
But it's like I have the machines, I have the beans, I have 3 machines at home, and I choose always the filter coffee because I research it's the best, the filter. And now I hear this matcha thing coming up, and I'm like, so what is the thing with coffee?
Matcha and mate as well? I hear a lot about mate and matcha.
But is it good what I'm doing, or is it because now I'm a bit like lost here?
So, well, first things first, and if you've seen my post, I recommend waiting an hour and a half before you have any caffeine.
Yeah.
That's because we sort of have like our normal wake up hormones and things that are getting activated, right? And so if you have coffee right away, it kind of lets your body be lazy.
Makes
So waiting about an hour and a half before you have any caffeine. There's pros and cons to coffee. I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan. Don't have it on an empty stomach because it's highly acidic, and they get the acid starting in your stomach and lead to reflux and things like that. So have it with a little bit of food. And then, there are pros and cons. There are some benefits to coffee. I think the health benefits of matcha are more so than coffee, but it's a personal preference. As long as you're having organic, I think you're okay. If it's not organic, who knows? And then the fact that you're making it right away and doing the beans and then having the coffee right away. The other thing is it loses its flavor and it loses its health benefits when it's sitting for a long period of time, and it can become contaminated. So that's just the other consideration.
And what about mate? Mate, mate,
like yerba mate and stuff.
Yerba
It's
mate.
also from green tea leaves. I like green tea because it has the antioxidant benefit as well, and it's good for your skin. And then the other thing I like to do in the morning is B complex. And I'll just put a little
going back from that. So you start your day with that routine, and then
that routine, lots of
kids
snuggles.
wake up and
they wake up, and then I'm like out the door, and then I work out 2 to 3 times a week doing strength training, and I'm a huge fan of strength training. I played soccer in college, so I used to think like I had to do a ton of cardio. I stopped doing cardio and just started doing strength training. I mean, I'll walk outside and stuff like that, and I do like to dance. But I found I have so much more energy, and I'm way more fit now that I've started to do strength training.
Are we talking just weights, or are we talking CrossFit type?
No, simple, like a simple routine. I think I need to publish it or something. It's super simple. There's 4 exercises that I rotate, 3 reps of each exercise. I try to, do as heavy weight as I can, till I'm fully fatigued with the muscles. But I've literally found I've had better energy, better posture. My physique has improved significantly, way more so than when I was running like a crazy person every day. And I think for women in particular, it's so important to have a strength training routine. We talk a lot about, as we get older, risk of osteoporosis, but we don't talk about muscle atrophy enough. And so we really need to build up our muscles. Osteoporosis is the bone, but that's really a consequence of our muscles atrophying. So it's really important to have a strength training routine in place. So anyway, and then the rest of the time I spend either consulting for healthcare companies and helping them to innovate in their healthcare, and then seeing patients and doing all this fun social media stuff.
How do you deal with all the attention?
I don't even look. I can't look. I can't because there's negative stuff too that people say,
I was going to say I experienced it recently on a reel that went quite viral, and my God, some of the things people were saying to me, I quite enjoyed it because I don't mind winding them back up. But I should imagine, because you're a doctor, everyone has their own opinion, right? And it might not even be one that's validated. It's just something they might have, a wives' tale or something they heard from their gran or something like this. So I take it with that, there'll be people putting their opinions onto this reel, which is great news for you because it's just going to help with the algorithm, right? It's going to be good.
Yeah. And I think the dialogue is good,
Yeah.
And sometimes I learn things from people, or they'll make a suggestion. And I'm also the first one to say, I don't know everything. So if like you've seen a study, if someone else has seen a study or something and they want to share it with me or they want me to dig a little deeper, like great. I'm also the first one to be like, that's really helpful. Let me look into that further, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of my posts are very much like, you know, let me just raise awareness about this topic. And then I'll do a follow-up post to kind of go into a little bit more detail based off of like who's interested in the detail or not. And I found that when I make posts that are like super, super informative and longer, people aren't interested in watching or learning. It's sort of like, so I kind of wait for you guys to tell me like, what do you want to see? Where do we want to go deeper? And then I'll have another forum for that, whether at YouTube or like an online, I'm actually building out an online community for people to join and like, tell me, where do you want to go deeper? If I don't know the answer, I'll get other experts to come in and we'll actually like have this like real time, real world medical community or I should say wellness community where we're learning more. But yeah, you know, like sometimes people will say like, where's that study from? And then it's an opportunity for me to pull the original study and share some more information around that. What annoys me the most is, people will comment about my physique or my body or this or that. It's like, great, I appreciate the compliments, but not when they're trying to do it to say, well, she can't be smart because like she's got a nice whatever, well, right?
I beg to differ. If you are smart, you usually have got a good physique because you're clever enough to work out that you should be working out, right? I mean, come on.
So that's hard.
I understand what she's saying.
Yeah.
You know, like it's when we, you know, there's a lot of conversation right now about like high value, right? High value woman, high value man. I think you are the epitome of what a high value woman really means. I think you are an example and an inspiration for a lot of women that are kind of like questioning themselves, or even men that are looking for, hey, what is really high? I think you are a great example for our generation. And I truly mean that. And I think it's very inspirational that you can be beautiful, you can be fit, and you can be smart, and you can educate yourself. And you can have class and grace. Are you Christian too, or believe in something?
So I was raised Christian. I say I'm more spiritual now, you know, sort of like God is all around us in nature. And I've really been focused a lot on that. And, you know, to kind of wrap up the day, I really do like to spend time in nature. I think there's so much to learn from that, even just like looking at trees and how they sway in the wind and things like that. Just like it helps to calm me. And it also just helps me, I don't know, I feel like I can just relax and appreciate and enjoy. And I've actually recently taken up doing a little bit more like sketching and drawing and painting and things like that. So,
I mean, we've all heard the expression that laughter is the best medicine. Okay. So we've all heard that. Do you think it's important for doctors to have a good sense of humor around things?
Yeah, I do. And to just like, you know, we were actually taught in medical school, you can't say always and you can't say never. And you always have to kind of couch what you say with like, well, you know, based on the evidence or this or that. And again, it just causes this rift where like the doctor is up here and like separate from the people. And like, I could say I never do that, or I don't like to do that. I don't want to do that. You're like, I'm a person too. And that's why I like doing the social media stuff is like, here's what I would never do. Like, here's what I don't like doing, or here's what I never used to do. And here's what I've changed doing. Like, you got to be relatable to people. And you don't always have to have that serious face. And there are some studies looking at this in terms of doctors that were very knowledgeable and then doctors that were very personable. You know who gets sued? The doctor that's knowledgeable and not personable. And even the doctor that's personable, but it isn't even providing accurate information, those doctors don't get sued. It just all goes to like making sure that you can relate and connect to people. And if a person likes you, they're going to listen. They're going to be more understanding if you make a mistake. Like, we're all human, as opposed to like, you know, putting yourself on a pedestal and being like, well, I'm the doctor and I went to medical school. Even the whole white coat thing, like, yeah, I'll wear it. I always say like stethoscope is jewelry nowadays. We don't even like need it to make a diagnosis. But it's all like, you know, creating this distinction between the doctor and a patient. And I don't really see a place for it anymore. And also, like, think about all the things you're too embarrassed to ask your doctor. Like, you feel like you have to be on your best behavior. No, you should be like telling your doctor everything, like spilling it all and be like, I think I got an STD. What do I do? Like, you know, you should be able to feel like you can trust somebody, not like you're being judged by somebody.
I always wonder, I don't know if you can tell me this, Jesse, coming from a man's point of view, if I don't know if women are more coming forward with their doctors, but I tend to just tell them exactly. I don't tend to go into a lot. Maybe it's a conversation to have, but
That's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you think as men?
Maybe it's more for men. Yeah.
I can't talk for all men, but I know I certainly
Because you're more like focused. It also says on your profile, like women's health, right? So I think you're the right person to ask.
Too. Yeah. I've been doing men's stuff too, and I get a lot of asks like around like, I'm 50 years old. Like, what should I be eating? What should I be doing for a preventive perspective? Like, there's a million supplements out there. Like, what should I be taking? So I do get men's health questions too, but there is this sense, right, that you kind of clam up when you're in front of your doctor and you want to like seem like you've got your shit together, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a macho thing. I don't know if it's a macho thing that I just don't like to. I don't know what it is, but I know personally, I tend to not give them everything that they probably need to diagnose me, which is stupid. My girlfriend would be different. She would tell them absolutely everything, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh God, how can you tell them everything?" But I suppose that's what they're there for, right?
Well, I'll tell you, with women's health, like this has been the whole problem with perimenopause and menopause, and like the silent pain that women are in, and it's the woman doesn't feel comfortable talking about it because it's like, ooh, down there, it's like, it's painful to have sex. Like, you don't want to say that to your doctor. It's embarrassing. Like, they feel like it's embarrassing. Yet every single woman goes through it, right? And every single woman gets like atrophy down there where like, it becomes very dry and painful. Doctors feel awkward talking about it. Women feel awkward talking about it. Like, stop feeling awkward. Every single woman goes through it. Every single one. So like, let's start the conversations about it. It's okay. It is a natural
that, I suppose,
part
is where it comes in when they're light-hearted with you.
It's
When
cultural.
a doctor says, "There's nothing I haven't seen or heard," that makes you feel
exactly
a lot better.
breaking the ice a little bit,
Yeah.
Isn't that more so American culture though? I think when I was living in America, everybody was so sensitive. I'm very direct and Dutch, and we're so open. And I'm sorry. Sometimes I have to apologize. Also with clients, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't think in real estate too. But it's in the interest of the client.
Yeah.
And I think in America, everybody is so hypersensitive. And also, I'm almost terrified to start a business in the US because I don't want to get sued for saying something, that.
Well, you are Dutch.
I saw what you said earlier. Yeah, I am, So, but I love what you say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the penis. Let's talk about the vagina. Come on, we're dealing with this. How
body parts,
we all
everyone
have it
got
at
'em.
some point. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just very British. I
don't know, how is that with British?
Start talking about penis, I'm like, okay, right.
Yeah, I'm not like that, man.
I start sweating under here, unfortunately. I'm like, okay,
man.
It's different, yeah. I suppose it's culture, it's cultural things, isn't it?
In Amsterdam, we live amongst like red light district, and
Of course.
it's like it's all like I don't know. It's different.
It's not so like the British stiff upper lip, right?
Yeah.
That we're it's a bit more taboo. We're a bit.
But I have another perfect example. Like, I had a girlfriend who was going to the dermatologist for acne, right? And she's like, I got to cancel my appointment. I got to move my appointment. Like, my acne is really bad. I haven't been taking my medication. My doctor's going to be upset with me. And I'm like, it's your dermatologist for the acne. Like, show him what your acne looks like. But she literally was like, he's going to be upset that I didn't take my medications. I'm going to move the appointment. I'm like, but it's the whole reason for you having a relationship with this person. So if you're not to like have the conversation, but you literally feel like you don't want to disappoint the doctor, that's part of it. You don't want to reveal that you're maybe like drinking a little too much or whatever, right? Because it's like, what's wrong with me? And we've created this environment, creating like this dynamic between doctor and patient where it's almost punitive. Yeah. And like, that just needs to go away. So anyway.
And you're leading the charge on that, I see. So.
That's right.
I really have because I know we're running short on time. I really wanted to ask something that is important to me and to many people. We have these things now like going viral everywhere about sunbathing, walking bare feet, but also grounding and being naked, right? Talking about being open. So like sunbathing the balls and kind of stuff. It's going viral everywhere. Everybody's talking about. Is that really a thing, or is that just something that is a hype? I do know the bare feet. I can understand that as important to ground and magnetic
energy. I'm sure.
I'm all about grounding. And like, I do really feel like there's value in there. I say don't wear your shoes in the house from a hygienic perspective, but I also say it from like just feeling your feet on the floor and just like having that sensation and being present, because otherwise you're just like kind of all over the place and you're not even noticing that sensation. And then also though, outside grounding on the earth and feeling the soil and feeling the earth on your toes. Now, granted, then you just wipe off your feet when you come inside. But I think there's something there. As it relates to naked sunbathing, for some reason it hasn't been showing up on my feed, Jesse, so I don't know what the heck you've been looking at.
It's this Dutch thing, isn't it? It's this whole Dutch thing.
The algorithm is on the wrong side for me.
But I will say,
what are you watching?
What I was talking about before in terms of like forest bathing and being present in nature, absolutely. And there's an energy there. I think it's silly for us to say, oh, we only have these 5 senses. Like there's a magnetic energy. There's a magnetic energy of nature and in your environment. And it's important to just be present and feel that. There's also something to be said for getting sunshine in terms of boosting your mood and improving your vitamin D levels. So instead of popping supplements, like 10 minutes of sunshine every day. And that's another thing that I do is I sit and I see the sunrise and I get 10 minutes of sunshine every day will boost your vitamin D levels. And there's value in that. I actually think we've become a little too sun shy and we're putting these sunscreen blockers on our body. And now we're surprised that we have vitamin D deficiency is because we're covering our whole everything, you know?
So you don't even know what's in the, I mean, we live in Marbella.
Don't get me started on the chemicals that are in that, right?
I couldn't name it.
We have Triana 20 days of sunshine, Tania, over here, average per year.
I mean, look, I certainly agree. I certainly agree with the sunshine because, I'm from London originally. So there's not much there. It's mental, it's full on, and being somewhere where you wake up in the morning. Yeah, I have a similar routine to yours, actually, probably because of you. And, the sunshine and the grounding stuff, I think, I don't know if it factually does anything for me, but I know how it makes me feel. So
here's the other thing, like factually, like what do we need to do science experiments on everything? Know that you feel better, right? Your mood is boosted. So we don't have to sit here and do like clinical studies around that. And I think that that's why, like oftentimes, like we limit ourselves by science. It's like, listen, if this has been a practice for thousands of years, like there's something to it. And if as an individual, you feel better from it, like you don't need to wait around for science to prove that to you. 100%. You know the stuff that makes you feel shitty and the stuff that makes you feel good. Keep doing the stuff that makes you feel good.
I have done ayahuasca in Colombia, the Amazonas.
Oh, we're getting into it now.
Yeah, because you mentioned your spirit. So I just want to give some getting a little bit deep there, because a lot of the shamans, I've studied a lot of it, and actually a lot of now Western doctors, they're saying, hey, you know what? These shamans knew a lot more and similar to what we're now knowing in Western medicine, and we can learn from that. And when I did ayahuasca and I see the knowledge they have about plants and what one plant can do for one person, when you have that, it's it's amazing.
Well, there's got to be something to that.
Same with mushrooms and
yeah, there's got to be something, because I would have thought a lot of the medication comes from synthetic plants, right? From taking that.
Also, yeah. I was really curious. Maybe you've even tried it. I don't know.
This would be telling.
That'll be for another podcast, guys.
Exclusive.
Right. That'll be for another podcast. But I mean, absolutely. We are so limited by science. We know this much in science, in terms of westernized these clinical trials and all this. That's why I'm very hopeful as it relates to the use of AI for clinical data and clinical trial. But in terms of our clinical studies, first of all, the reason why women have atypical symptoms, for example, is because the medications and diseases were only studied in men. So of course we don't understand how these medications interact with women and how women maybe present as it relates to a heart attack or whatever, because we never studied the disease in women. So as much as we say, oh, there's no clinical data and science for this, and let me look to the research, we know this much. And the truth is, shamans have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. In China, Eastern medicine, thousands and thousands of years. Okay, their evidence is anecdotal. Well, it's thousands of years of anecdotal evidence. So, I think
there's a big shift as well towards it. I'm not saying that Western medicines, but there's definitely been a big shift, and there's obviously a little bit of mistrust that's going on with the medical industry. Now, for what I see from my own group of friends, if you like, do you get a lot of that come up in the conversations. I mean, obviously there's been, the word you can't really say because you get banned on social media, but the pandemics and stuff that we had recently and stuff. I know this is getting deep, but what my point is, there's a lot of mistrust in the Western, American, British, that type of medical institutional medicine. There's a lot of distrust, and people are starting to move that other way, right? And I mean, where can the gap get bridged? Where can that happen?
I think it's more healthcare professionals or people who have been researching and studying this for a long period of time being open to both sides, and then like serving as that bridge and saying yes and or no because or whatever, but like being open to it. There's truth on both sides, there's value, there's benefit on both sides, but I think like people that are rooted in the scientific method, or at least kind of having a general understanding of science and medicine, should be coming out and doing more. And like, you don't have to look very far. It's why like these influencers, wellness influencers, whomever, that are, let's say, 25 years old, no medical background or history, are like, oh, I was bloated, here's my gut journey, and now here's the 5-day gut boot camp and everything you need to know about this. It's like they're kind of these new experts are popping up everywhere because people are staying in their camps like, oh, well, I'm a doctor, I'm not going to go there. And so you just, everywhere you look, there's misinformation out there. It's like the Wild West.
Suppose, and also with medical, there's not one size fits all, does there? There's a lot of things going on with people and the genetics and stuff like that. So you're right. Yeah. I think AI is going to help with a lot of that.
Dr. Tania, you're incredible. I want to be respectful of the time here. I want to always give you the last word to maybe share some things for our listeners, some tips. Also very important. Where can people find you? And also, I'm sure maybe some people would love, for you to be their doctor. I'm sure, right? So that's great. If you could share maybe some last words.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for having me. This has been an incredible conversation, and it went in lots of different places. It's so fun. We can do it again. People can find me at Dr. Tania Elliott. I would love to hear from more people. Like, they can reach out to me via email, through my website, or just through social media and DMs. Like, what should we be building together? What do you want to see more of? So as I mentioned, I'm going to be launching an online community. Most of the stuff's going to be free, like content, information, a day in the life, all this stuff. But eventually I want to kind of grow out, like, where do we need to go deep? And maybe we do in-person conferences. Like, I want to be the person that can help inform people more and get a little bit deeper in this health and wellness space. But I need feedback from you guys as to like, what should we build together? What courses do you want to see? What type of conferences should I put on? So like, I'm crowdsourcing right now. I want to hear from you guys what would be of value.
That's really great to hear, because that community, so you can give access to multiple people, helping them through that platform. I think that's a great way.
And the fact you're giving it out free is amazing. I mean, everyone's too worried about making a quick buck these days before actually putting value first, and that's just amazing that you're doing it.
Very true.
Yeah.
Tania, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We look forward to hearing from you more, and hopefully do a part 2 at some point.
And don't change that morning routine, because I don't want to have to keep changing my one, right? So
I want not changing. I got lots of secrets up my sleeve, but it's got to be in person. I got to be in the sunshine and get out of this cold weather.
You definitely have an invite from us. That's for sure.
We have a lot of property ready for you. Second residence, golden visa, you name it.
I love it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Tania, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.